Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Danielle. I'm mother to a 3-year-old son and I've just had a baby girl who is now 2 weeks old. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you could subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. So today is an exciting video, one I've been waiting to film for a long time. It's my labour, C-section vlog / story time, a bit of everything mixed in there. So let's get to it. So some of you may or may not know, with my first little boy, we had quite a traumatic labour and ended up having an emergency C-section. So this time round we'd opted for an elective C-section. So I kind of wanted to sort of document some of the process of that, let you guys know, what we had to do, because it was something I was so interested in before I went in, because I had no idea, because it is so different from an emergency. Obviously with an emergency you don't expect it and you just have to be, put straight into that situation, whereas elective C-section is so much different. And I also had a really positive experience, and I think it's, if this is something you have opted for, it's great to hear some of those positive experiences as well and have a little insight to what will happen on the day. It obviously may change depending on which hospital you go to, but like I said, it is just nice to know what to expect on the day and prior to the date as well, because there's a little bit of preparation which goes with it also. The process for the C-section starts with somebody contacting you to let you know whether you can have the C-section or not and go through all the risks. So we received a phone call at about 28 weeks, and I kid you not, the phone call lasted 5 minutes. I may have said this on one of my vlogs somewhere or a previous update, but I looked after the phone call and it was 5 minutes long. And all they did was that they checked all your details, they confirmed the reason you had to have an emergency C-section last time, and then they just go through the risks. So the same sort of things that if you had an emergency one previously, you would be given this sheet of paper usually, and they either read it out or ask you to read and agree to it, sign it. So they go through all that on the phone, and then you have to say whether you're happy with it, and then if you are, all they then said to me was somebody will contact you a few weeks before you're due to go in for your surgery, and they'll give you a date and give you a bit more information then. So that is literally all I had to go off at that point. So I think we then got a phone call around about 34 weeks, and this was also again just a quick informal phone call, and they just told us the dates, and that was it. They just said that it's going to be on this date, it's going to be this time, which was at that point it was have to be at the hospital for 10:30 because it's going to be an afternoon an appointment, and that was it. And then they said, oh, you'll get a phone call in a couple of weeks just to let you know what to do on the day. So at that point, all I knew was what date it was and what time we had to be at the hospital for. So at 30, round about, I think it was only about a week before, so around about 38 weeks, I received a phone call with a bit more information. So my actual C-section date, I was 39 weeks and 4 days, I think. So it was about a week and 4 days before I was due, the C-section was booked for. I got a phone call and they gave me a little bit more information. So they just confirmed again which hospital it was, what time the appointment was, and then they also told me that a couple of days before before my appointment, I had to go into the hospital to have some blood tests. I think that was to check your iron, to do some swabs for, I'm going to say MRSA. Let me just double check I have wrote it down. yes, I think it's MRSA. I think it's sort of like an infection which you can pick up from hospitals and things like that. So yeah, so you had to have a swab for that, had to have a COVID test done, and then they gave me a huge bag of tablets and drinks and all sorts to take, and I may have mentioned it in the vlog, but I'm just going to go through it all again so you know what to expect on the day. So so on the phone call they just said, be at the hospital for this date, which was a couple of days before my actual appointment, and you're going to have your bloods, and then they're going to give you some medication and things, but they'll explain to you on the day on your appointment when you need to take all that medication. A couple of days before the date of my C-section, I had to go into the hospital, and like I said, I had my blood taken and some swabs done and the medication. So the medication which they gave me was, I had some tablets which I think is to keep your stomach settled and so you don't get acid and things. That may be completely wrong, but I feel like I've heard that from somewhere. But some tablets, some nose gel, which is also for that MRSA to, I think, stop the infection. I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs, but I just know they gave it to me. So the gel, 2 drinks, and some shower wash. So the medication that they give you, I had to take 1 tablet a night before at midday, and then I had to take another tablet at 6 AM the morning of the surgery. And then I also had that nose gel which I had to take as soon as possible. So as soon as I was given it, a couple of days before, I had to start taking it, and I think I had to do it about 3 times a day, and it was literally just put it the end of your nostrils and that's it. So it was pretty straightforward, that one. And then we had the shower wash, which was also to make sure that you are not carrying any infections or anything like that. So you had to shower in that the morning of your surgery, so all over, and then you couldn't put any shower gel or any moisturizer or anything like that on after. And then you had the 2 drinks, and I think the 2 drinks were excuse me, for sort of vitamins and give you energy and things like that, because you can't eat depending on what time you go in. So firstly, I was meant to have an afternoon appointment, so what I was meant to do is stop eating by 6 AM the morning of, and then I couldn't drink anything else from 10 AM. So I could have water from 6 AM till 10 AM, and I also, so I had to take my tablet at 6 AM, and then I had to drink those 2 drinks at 10 AM. Now, like, I don't know if I've mentioned it in the vlog again, but my appointments got changed the night before, so I got a phone call from the hospital changing the hospital and changing my appointment time. So I now had to be at the hospital, I think, for 6 AM or 6:30, I think it was 6:30. So I had to be at the hospital for, or was it 7? No, it wasn't 6:30. I had to be at the hospital for 7:30 for a morning appointment. So I then had to stop eating at different times then. So I had to stop eating, I think it was from 10 PM the night before, but I think I had my last meal. I think I made a mistake here because I had my last meal at like 7 PM and then I didn't have anything else, because that's just kind of my normal meal times, whereas I probably should have had a last meal at 10 PM to keep me going a bit more. So if you are in that situation, make the most of it and just wait till the last minute to have a good meal. So yeah, so it was, I think, stop eating by 10 PM, and then you couldn't have any liquids after 6 AM. So from 10 PM to 6 AM, you could just have water and then nothing. And again with that, you had to take the tablet the day before, and then the tablet again you'd take at 6 AM, but also you would need to take your 2 drinks at 6 AM. That's what I did, and we arrived at the hospital for 7:30. It was really nerve-wracking because it was a hospital we'd never been before. We just got used to the hospital that we were going to because we'd had Henry at that hospital. We'd had all our scans and appointments at that hospital in the same building, so we kind of got used to where the parking was and where everything was, and then like literally the night, we couldn't even do a test round because it was literally the night before we got told we was going to a different hospital. So it was a bit stressful thinking, and then obviously the time had changed as well. So we'd already organised like my mum to come and have Henry at a certain time, what time we were going to leave. We hadn't done everything, because we thought, oh, we're going to have a bit of time in the morning to get a couple of bits done as well. And then obviously that completely changed. So it was quite stressful, because yeah, it was such a last minute thing, and we were quite stressed of where we've got to go, and we're not, you know, we've got to change our plans now, we've got to ring round. Yes, it was a little bit stressful. I was kind of hoping that the morning was going to be quite chilled, you know, to keep me quite relaxed, ready for the surgery, but it didn't turn out that way. It was like very, very hectic. So we got to the hospital for about 7:30, and we had to go to the maternity assessment unit, where we just had to do usual, they give you urine in and things like that. And then we were just put into just sort of like a random room where we had to have blood pressure taken, check the baby's heart rate, and then the midwife came in and she just kind of explained what was going to happen throughout the day. So we were told that the surgeon would come round, speak to us, and the anaesthetist, I think I've said that right. Yes, and then they would let us know what time we would be going down. They said there was 2 people in that day, and they were both meant to be morning appointments. But at that point we didn't know who was going to go first. So the anaesthetist came and spoke to us first, and he was lovely. He was so thorough. He was there for like 20 minutes going through everything, and it was such a different experience because you know, the first time with an emergency C-section, you are just rushed in there and you don't know what's going on, whereas this time he spoke about everything, what sort of options we had. He asked if I wanted to be asleep or wanted to just go under local anaesthetic for it, which my option was obviously to go under local anaesthetic, but he said, you know, if something does happen, this is what we will have to do, and just went through everything. Asked if Dan wanted to cut the cord, asked if I wanted to see the baby actually be delivered and the sort of curtain come down. And yeah, it was really nice to have all these different options, and they said, oh, you can take photos. So what we will do was let your partner know when we're ready, and he can take some photos, which was just absolutely fantastic. So he came and seen us, and then the surgeon came and seen us, and again she kind of just went through what was going to happen when we would go in there, and that was it really. And that was quite a quick chat, that one, whereas the anaesthetist was quite a long and thorough conversation. So we then had to wait quite a while. So the first person we believed was going to go down at 10:30, and they'd already told us at this point that we are not the first person. So I thought, oh, around about 12, something like that, we'll probably go down. But I think it was around about 2 that the ball started rolling, and things started happening. So we went into like a waiting room. So we was given the gown to put the gown on, waited in this, got moved to this, I think it was, I don't know where it was, but we got moved into this waiting room, and they said someone will be with you. We waited in there for about half an hour, I think it was, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. And they did apologise and say that, you know, something come up and it was delayed, which you know can expect, because obviously if they have an emergency or anything like that, you know, that's got to take priority. So we weren't too fussed. We were obviously a bit eager and anxious, but we kind of understood that could happen. So we went down, and Dan had to wait in the oh no, they took him to the recovery room, and he got changed into all his scrubs, and then they took me down, and they obviously had to do sort of all the anaesthetic and things like that, and get me all piped up as they do and in the bed and all ready before Dan could come in. So when I was all ready, I was lying on the bed with my arms up, and like I said, it was just completely different, because when you're taken in there, everything's so rushed and everybody's a little bit more manic, where this was so chilled, and they had music on, and the midwife in charge was so lovely, and she was kind of just explaining everything as we were going along. And then Dan came in, and it was just, it felt so relaxed, and it wasn't what I expected at all. Kind of, when you've had a bad experience with it, that kind of sticks in your head, but this just felt really chilled. And obviously you're numbed anyway, so you can't feel anything. It's, you know, it's a little bit painful when they're putting drips in and things like that, but everything else, and they have to put a catheter in as well. But everything else seemed, you know, really relaxed, and the surgeons and everybody there were just so lovely, and they were all just having a laugh, and just, yeah, it was a great experience. I now have a little friend with me. Yeah, she's just woke up, just had to give her a feed, and now I'm back, because you know what it's like as a mother, especially to a newborn. You know, whenever you plan anything, it just does not go to plan. So hopefully she's settled, she's still awake, she's quiet at the minute, so hopefully we can get through the rest of the video. Completely lost where I am though. So yes, I think we were at the point of the actual surgery. So they prepared me, Dan then came in, all in his scrubs, bless him, and they continued with the surgery, and they showed me when half part was being pulled out, delivered, whatever you want to call it, and the sort of curtain sheet came down to show me. And it was so emotional. It was amazing, because obviously with Henry I didn't get that, and I've kind of, when I was pregnant with Henry, I'd imagined this sort of, I'm kind of swaying, trying to keep saying, settle it down. I kind of remember I was pregnant with Henry. One of the things that I kind of envisioned and was so excited for was the actual birth, when I would give birth to him and they would hand me this baby and I would see him come into this world. And that was one of the things which was really difficult for me after I had my emergency C-section, was I just didn't expect it, and I kind of got in my head what it was going to be like, and it was going to be this magical moment, which it still was magical in its own way, but I kind of imagined this baby being delivered and me watching this baby come into the world and then put into my hands, and that wasn't the case. I didn't really get to see anything. So with this time, because I could see the baby sort of still being delivered but in a different way, it was so emotional, and it was just absolutely amazing, and I cried, and it was just so great. So that was a really nice experience, and that was a huge difference from obviously the emergency C-section to a sort of planned C-section. If you can hear a noise as well, the dog has now decided to come beside me and play with one of her toys. So I've got a baby in my hand and the dog next to me playing with her toys. So yeah, it's all going on. You know, this is why us women can multitask, can't we? So yes, so baby was delivered, taken away initially, cleaned down, and I think they probably given a quick check over, and then they brought the baby over and kind of just sort of put her to my face and let me have a look at her in a quick cuddle. You know, I couldn't hold her because my arms are stood up at this point, so they kind of just placed her there a little bit, and then gave her to Dan, and Dan held her for a little bit, and then they took her away, and then Dan had to go at that point back into the recovery room while they finished the surgery, and then they took me into the recovery room, which I think I was in there for an hour, I'm gonna say. I feel like it was more, but I feel like, yeah, I think it was probably an hour. I'll double check that with Dan, and if it was different, I'll just pop something on the screen there. It felt like, I think with the first time, we were in there a lot longer, but I think because there were a lot more things to it, like I picked up an infection while I was in the hospital and all these different things. So I think that's probably why we had to stop and recover a bit longer, but I think it was only about an hour. Oh, the dog is just... Oh, come on. The dog's locking herself out the stair gate, and then she can't get a toy, and because it's all going off. Yeah, so I think we're in recovery for about an hour. They just have to make sure that the baby's temperature gets to a certain point, so they have to, you know, make sure that's okay before you can go into the ward. And my midwife was so lovely. So it was the same midwife which was also in the surgery as well, and she was so nice. And she could see that sometimes I was struggling to breastfeed, and she was coming, I didn't ask, and she just kind of would see it and say, do you want a little bit of help? And she would just kind of get the baby and, you know, help her latch on. And she told me that the baby was tongue tied, so I might struggle a little bit with breastfeeding, which I have. You know, I will go into more breastfeeding and things like that in a you know, in a different video, but I have had to express because I've not been able to get Harper to latch on, or it's been just really painful. But like I said, if that's something you're interested in, I can do another video on that. I have got a few things to review as well, which is quite exciting. So yeah, so in recovery for about an hour. She also, because she'd got, I don't know what the white stuff is, I can't remember what it's called, but the midwife said she'd never seen a baby with so much of it on her. And because there was so much of it on her, it'd gone like up her nose and things. So when she was lying down, midwives weren't concerned at all. Me and Dan was like about having a panic attack. It sounded like she couldn't breathe, and we kept on saying like, is she okay, is she okay? And she was like, oh yeah, she's fine. It's just that stuff stuck up her nose. She'll just need to sneeze it out and she'll be absolutely fine. So she was like it for quite a few hours, but then it just sort of disappeared. But like I said, no one was really concerned about it. So we were then transferred to a ward, which was really nice and comfy. We were really lucky because we were sort of in a sort of, so although we was in a ward, there was only actually 2 beds in the bit that I was at, and then there was a door, and then sort of like the hallway to the rest of the ward and the rest of the bed. So I had one lady next to me when I first came, and she was gone within a couple of hours, and then I never had anyone else in that bed. So it felt like my own room, because like I said, there was also beyond those 2 rooms there was a door. So at night they used to say you can just shut this if you want to try and get a bit more sleep. So I could shut it, so it was like me basically having my own room. So that was really good, because I had, the first time I had my own room when I had Henry, which was, you know, so much better than being with lots of people and lots of babies on a ward. So we were really lucky. It was quite peaceful and quiet and an enjoyable experience. I've never had an enjoyable experience in a hospital before, but it felt so relaxed. And like with Harper, like I was really concerned because Dan couldn't stop this time, whereas last time, because it was like an emergency and so much was going on, they said, you know, he shouldn't really be stopping overnight, but they let him. So I had the help. So, you know, with you having a C-section, getting up and things like that, I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to get up with her in the night and things like that, but that just wasn't the case. Yeah, so I was kind of feeling quite relaxed. When Harper was going to sleep, I had my Kindle and I was lying in bed. I didn't get any sleep because I just couldn't sleep. I was lying in bed. Yeah, and it was quite a chilled experience. One thing which was a little bit stressful was you have your catheter in, and then they take it out. I can't remember at what point they take it out, but after that you have so many hours to have 3 wees. So you get given these bowls and you have to wee, and then somebody has to check to make sure you've weed. and like I said, I can't remember how many hours it was, but they kind of extended, because I said to them, oh, my time's nearly up and I hadn't gone for a wee, and they was like, oh well, the maximum can be another 2 hours, but if you don't wee by that point, you're going to have another catheter in, and you then have to be monitored for another 24 hours. So I thought, well, that's going to be nearly 2 days, because I'd have it in for 24 hours, but then after that I would have to do the 3 wees probably again. I didn't really know, but I was so upset, thinking I don't want to stop in any longer, because they'd already said if everything goes well you can go home tomorrow. So literally I was drinking and drinking. I kept on filling up my jug every couple of minutes, filling it up, drinking, and I just couldn't go. I'd got like the urge, but then I'd go to the toilet and nothing. And I was so upset, and I think it was 20 minutes before my time was up, I kind of was like, I'm gonna do this. So I went into the toilet, had all the taps on, put my hands under there, was in there for ages, and I managed to wee, and I'd never been so excited to have a wee, to be honest. Yeah, so I was really stressed, thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna have to stop him for longer. And I just wanted to go home to see Henry and get us all settled in. Although Henry did come Saturday, and we spent like all morning and the like sort of lunchtime until I left the hospital, because I think it was around about 2 o'clock or something like that, maybe 2-3 p.m. that we actually left the hospital. So like I said, we weren't really in there for very long. Yeah, it was kind of all in all, I don't think I've missed anything out. I probably have missed something out, but it's a little bit all over the place, because I've not really got that much time to kind of go through everything and sit down and write a whole list. It's been a bit all over the place and crazy, like it is when you have a newborn. But we're home now. Like I said, it's been about just over 2 weeks since we had Harper, and we're all settled in. Henry was a little bit not sure at the start, and was like, first night, like she was crying, and then Henry woke up crying, screaming. He was like, send her back. I was like, it doesn't quite work like that. But now he's really warm to her, and he's always checking on her. He calls her Jelly Bean. So whenever we say Harper, he's like, it's not Harper, it's Jelly Bean. So I kind of try and go slipping Harper every so often to try and get him used to her name. But yeah, we're all doing really well. Dan's back to work tomorrow, which is a little bit daunting. I don't know how I feel about that. It's so different with your second child. Like when we had Henry, it was kind of like when Henry slept, I could either have a nap or get some jobs done around the house, or just have a bit of time to myself. Whereas now that is just not the case. It's like whenever she naps, it's, you know, still trying to do things in the house, but also keeping Henry occupied. And I've been really conscious of trying to make sure he's included in everything, and trying to make sure I have enough time for him as well, because the last thing I would ever want was for him to feel left out. So it's been really different trying to sort of manage my time and sort of make sure that I'm giving, you know, both my children the love and support that they need. But you know, it's one of those things, isn't it? You can only do your best, and as long as you're giving your best, you know, that's all that matters really. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm so excited for some new content to come up on my channel, because obviously everything's going to be, has been previously pregnancy related, so obviously we're going to have a lot of sort of newborn content. I've got some reviews coming up on breast pumps and things like that, and also I am starting, I wouldn't call it a diet, I would call it more healthy eating, because since having her I've ate so much rubbish and so much food, because you'll probably be aware that if you've watched my previous videos how like ill and sick I've been throughout this pregnancy. And as soon as I had her, the sickness just completely went, and all I wanted to do was eat, and I've not stopped since. But I'm quite conscious, because obviously I am breastfeeding, and I want to make sure I've got the nutrients to make sure that she's getting it as well. I don't want to keep eating junk and things like that. So I am going to be starting sort of healthy eating and trying to lose a little bit of that weight on top of it as well, but that's not my main concern. So I'm going to be filming a bit of what I eat in the day. So yeah, a few different things come up, but I hope you enjoyed this video anyway. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.